I feel privileged that our next guest is Claire Orange, who is based in Australia, and she is the co-founder of DiGii, a platform that helps keep our children safe online. I've known Claire for a few years. I met her when I was in Australia a few years ago. She was a mentor at a phenomenal movement called Tech Girls Are Superheroes. And we got chatting about childhood well-being and the impact of technology in the world that they're living in. So Claire, lovely to see you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about the problem you're solving, why it matters, and then the next bit is how we're actually solving this.
Right. So I'm on a huge mission, and that mission is to really save our children's childhood, to give our children enough skills in the digital world that they find themselves, because really the statistics are dire. They are absolutely dire. So I'll tell you about our Australian statistics, knowing that they are replicated over the world. We have here in Australia, the leading cause of childhood death is suicide by a factor of 4. We know that 1/4 of those deaths are linked to cyberbullying. So that's a really big statistic when you're talking about children. We know that by the age of 12, we have about 25% of our boys who are accessing pornographic content online on a regular basis. We know that by the age of 8, our children have spent about 30% of their waking time online. So we know that the impact of the digital world on our children is absolutely huge. And, you know, Deb, the reason why it matters to do something about this is up until now, we've relied on what are fabulous resources in our communities, like the occasional guest speaker, usually around the metropolitan areas, which means that kids in further out areas don't have access to these services that help them to keep them safe online, protected online, teach them how to be good digital citizens, and also teach them about digital civility that every one of us needs to learn. So we've put all of this education in our schools. We educate our children on sexual health and behaviour from the early years, from year 5, knowing that that's not because they're having sex, because they need to know to be protected. And yet digital life is having a smashing impact on our children. And we do just a tiny bit, which is not enough. So it matters. It matters for 21st century children that we meet this huge and growing 21st century problem with a solution that kids will uptake. And that's what DiGii is. It's a live and immersive social media training platform. It's custom built that children go on. It's for year 5s and 6s, which is our pre-teens, anywhere from 9 to 13 years of age. And they're immersed in this safe container. They chat to other children, and while they're doing it, we're using AI to analyse every keystroke and to feed back to them on their content. Teasing, bullying, hate speech, racism, we catch it and we moderate it by educating the child. Simply through a process of little animations popping up and telling the child what to do. And then we expand out that education using a system of animations and tutorials that cover everything from blue light radiation and the impact of the brain, getting enough movement, sleep, all the way to the top end of town, which is the pornography and grooming aspect.
Why 9? Like, is it because choosing the age to which you start to educate kids? What was the process in determining that age?
In terms of the human neurology, we know that really up until the age of 6, the child's brain is very much influenced in terms of conditioning by the primary caregivers. Then the school teacher steps in at about the age of 6 with as much impact and conditioning on the brain. By the time that brain is a pre-teen brain, when it's going to go through a huge process of reorganisation, it becomes very influenced by peers. So if we start training the pre-teen brain before it starts to turn into a 14-year-old brain. So 14-year-old brains are obnoxious, right? They know everything. They know everything about everything. You can't tell a 14-year-old anything, but you can tell a 9-year-old and you can tell a 12-year-old. much harder when they get older and they've already got a big digital footprint. So we know we can catch these little dudes now and we can teach them in a time where they're ready and they're right to be shaped and guided and navigated.
As I listen to you, the vastness of the challenge feels more like a tsunami.
It is.
So we have data scientists listening to this. We have CEOs listening to this. What can we, because a platform can do so much, but then each of us have our own, how can we all play a role in this? Well, what can I do, for instance, be more mindful as to the traps or the pitfalls we could be setting up our kids for?
Well, I think, I believe that valuing children is on everybody, Deb. It's not just on me as a therapist and a mum. It's on all of us. It's on our community that we've let a generation of children down, and I absolutely believe that it is a tsunami that's smashed into childhood. So it means that whoever is listening to this, we all have a role to play. We have a role to play in how we program tech, in how we teach children when we put them through STEM education programs with a high level of empathy in that training, that we teach children to lean into their purpose and their passion and that they become good humans that are, centered around good. We also have to make sure that anyone who has a position in writing what is social media, where people gather and congregate and trade content, whether it's a work-based platform or whether it's a social platform, that we always put ethics right at the beginning of it, because we often don't do that. We put money at the beginning of the equation. How many people can we get on? How much advertising revenue can we make? How dare we? Because our children are on.
And how do we keep them coming back? How do we keep them addicted? It's kind of like sugar, right? I mean, I'm not a mom, right? So, but I observe a lot of parents, and the default way, I mean, you see a lot of people kind of getting an iPad and sticking their kid on it, and it's kind of the iPad has become today's babysitter. So what can a parent do to be more mindful before they just pass on an iPad, which is a very powerful piece of tech, right, into the hands of an innocent child, but a very creative and naturally problem-solving way of thinking?
Yes. Well, I think with all parents, we need to know that, right back at the beginning, you have to thrive before 5. And thrive before 5 means that they need eye contact, they need human interaction, they need to read books, they need lots of lap time, they need lots of cuddles. So don't default to that. It's easy, but it's programmed to hook your children. So I see children sitting with books and swiping the paper because they've not actually learned to turn the pages. Let's go back, because actually this is how human brains work. We haven't been under lights all that long, have we? So our brains haven't adapted even to living under lights. We all have a vitamin D deficiency. You do, I do, we all do, because we're supposed to be out there. Our brains can't keep up and adapt that fast. So parents know that. The first 5 years, you're laying the foundation. Keep your children a little bit of screen time, not going to hurt anyone, right? Supervise it.
Well, what is the recommended screen time? Like,
Nothing
on your platform, is there a kind of guidance so that the kid is between? I mean, I just got a puppy, and there's all kinds of guidance online as to what you should do between this age and that age, and I've become like this crazy kind of fairy child mom. So are there tips on the platform as to help parents be more tech savvy, so to speak?
Yes. So there's a parent platform. In addition to the way children are playing on the platform, there's a parent platform, and parents, lucky for them, have 50 videos of me that only last 3 minutes. We've gone with the attention of the goldfish philosophy for keeping people engaged. So 50 videos, and it covers all of that: screen time, screen limits, setting all of that up in your home to be a successful, digitally healthy family without being too restrictive and ODT, but without being just take it and run, she'll be right. So there is a lot of parent education on there.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, my parents spent a lot of time with me. Looking back, it felt like we were privileged. And today, life seems a lot more hurried, and with parents' work, and so it's not just the technology that's the challenge, it's the speed and the broader pressures on family life, right? So how does a family balance that in?
Well, this is the eternal question. I think again that Thrive by Five, the little ones, we're on baby time. Slow down, take things out of your routine that don't need to be there. Your child doesn't need to be training in things 3 or 4 days a week. Prioritize sitting around the family meal table and having no tech at the table. So my children are adults. I've got 15, 18, 19 and 22. There's never any tech at the table. You bring your phone to the table and you can consider it gone. Have these rules. Stick to things that are good for human beings, including us, like we got from our parents.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose also that is impacted by corporate practices, right? So parental leave and ensuring that it's not just for women, it's also for men, and we need to be looking at the impact of parents on future leaders. It's funny, it's always fascinated me how we seem to be encouraging people to have kids and go back to work as quickly as possible. And then later on in life, we invest billions of dollars in leadership development programs in the corporate world. And from my experience, the character is shaped in the early days. And if you're going to train someone on leadership and basic human principles and character at the age of 21, I think that horse has bolted, right?
Yeah, but it's like that. I guess I put that into the bullying domain. If we haven't taught a child in the early childhood years how to be empathetic and compassionate, how to respond to another human, then we have lots of anti-bullying programs in the workplace, and we have lots of domestic violence programs out there as well. Horses bolted. That learning comes in early childhood.
Yeah. Oh, good grief. So we're in a state of actually playing catch up. So you're in Australia. We're very early days for the platform. How are you getting the word out, and what's your plan for getting scale?
We are very early days, so we only just commercialise at the beginning of next year. We've been in a research trial, so we've had an independent research trial. Results are phenomenal, and that was children playing over 10 weeks. Couldn't have written that better, and that's a really big part of us scaling. So we're looking for channel partners. We've just set up a partnership today with someone in Singapore into the international schools through Southeast Asia. We will be working, so the UK is one of our first target markets, and we will be looking to establish channel partners outside of the Australian market as quickly as possible, so that this tech that we've researched and performance trialled can now hit schools, and we know that it's good, we know that it's getting the results, and we know that because it's digitally delivered and all of the learning is in it, that we can just pop it anywhere, and it's curriculum compliant.
Okay. I'd like to do some calls to action to our audience in order to help them engage in being part of the solution, because I think it does impact all of us, right, whether we have kids or not. So if anyone is running a school, to reach out to you to learn more and see how they can implement and be part of the solution and help the learning for the families and their communities. And also they're CEOs and they've got CSR budgets,
Yes.
leadership budgets, marketing budgets. I think this is a very good kind of partnership program, so they could partner with local schools in order to help scale it into help them get access. Would that be fair?
And all of that information, Deb, is on the DiGii Social website, which is digisocial.com. So we're looking for corporate social responsibility funding, because that means we hit lots of schools fast. That means we save children faster, we educate parents faster, and we change life for a generation of kids. So you can become a local hero. You can sponsor a local school. It's low cost. It's $25 here in Australia, a child a year. 1 year. That's their parents. That's the school. That's education for their teachers. It's not a big ask. So we want people to be part of change and to join us. So whether you're a school who's interested, you've got a child in a school, you know they'd be interested, we're right there. But our mission is 1 million children a year educated on our platform, and that's just level one of my goals. But that's where I'm going first. So if you can be part of our story, I would be exceptionally grateful.
Wonderful. And any tips to the data scientists listening to us on how they can design tech that is beneficial to humanity going forward? 3 things that they should bear in mind.
Perhaps one of the things that should guide every action is to imagine that you're 89 and you're living in a care home 20 years from now, and looking after you is a robot. And that robot has to do all aspects of your care. It's got to toilet you, it's got to shower you, it's got to lift you out of your bed. Now, you want that robot to have been programmed by someone with a high level of empathy. I want my robot to be very gentle when it wipes my bottom. Excuse me, we are from Australia, we're a bit brash. I want that robot, right? I want the one I want it programmed by people with high levels of empathy. So always think, what's the human impact? How will this look, and who will it impact? And what's the purpose? Is it about money, or is it about hope? Is it about love and connection? Is it about what fundamentally fires us up as humans? If it's not, then it's not good tech, and it's not the way our world should be going, even though that's the passage we're running down.
Fantastic. You've been inspiring, and you've all given us, I believe, a lot of food for thought. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking on your mission, and continue the great work.
Thanks, Deb. And thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.